All right, we are live. Hold on here. I'm going to go IG live as well. Yes. All right, we are live on Facebook. Facebook land. We are live on IGTV. Yo. James Gardner, the hero within here. We're going to have some fun this afternoon for people that join this conversation or people that find this recorded after the fact, wherever this comes to you. So, yes, we all know I'm writing a book. Everyone that's in my community, it's been top of mind over the last 2 weeks. And obviously, I've been sharing a lot about the journey of myself. And obviously, New York plays a huge part, 12 years in New York City. And I've publicly come out, if you will, that I was a Chippendale dancer. Yes. Yes, people that are tuning in, keep it PG, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So I thought we'd have some fun here because obviously there's a lot about Chippendales, and it's something that you don't hear that often or meet somebody or get to have a conversation with somebody that was involved with that. So I thought we would have some fun today. I created a list because I've been getting a lot of messages over the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks really, but just questions. And so I went through some of my messages, and I got a list here of some top questions that people want to know. Inquiring minds about Chippendales want to know. All right. So I thought we'd have a little dance. Don't point at me. I'm pointing at you, Steve-O. All right, here it is, gang. So Chippendales does play a part in the story. Everything in the book has a purpose. Chippendales is just a small part. It's actually one chapter of the book only. And Tina O, the writing coach, writing guru that she is, happens to be her favorite chapter, the way it's written. So I know the pre-readers have read this chapter. It definitely sticks in their minds. It's a look into the world. It's also funny. It's also just kind of chaotic. So here it is, gang. A couple of things. Boom, right off the get-go. That is the real Hulk Hogan. Some people are like, is that like a cardboard cutout or something? No, that's the Hulkster. Him and I were at a trade show. And I know IGTV, you can't see this, unfortunately, but there's a picture of Hulkster on there. And him and I were at a trade show working together. I was with a couple of Chippendale guys, and the Hulkster was there. So we had some good laughs, him and I. And of course, we had to break down in a pose. The other one is that Chippendales thing. It's hard to see in the small one. It's a cookbook. It's a flippin' cookbook. Yes, I can't cook. However, I can in a Chippendale cookbook. It's stupid. It's just, me eating some strawberries and holding a fucking spatula, I think, if I remember correctly, with an apron and without an apron. It's out there, though. It's out there in the land. Cookbook done. Okay. We're going to, no random order. If you guys have questions, feel free to drop them in on IG land. I can't, it's hard for me without my old man glasses, but I'll see if I get a question. That's funny. Hello, Fab, Cindy, Steve-O. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? All right, here we go. What is a real Chippendale show? I can't even fucking speak. What is a real Chippendale show like? Is it? They always ask me, "Have you seen Magic Mike?" I'm like, "Fuck no, I lived Magic Jim. I didn't need to see Magic Mike." Although I know it's a good movie. Okay, a real Chippendale show. It is not it's an experience. Now, I know everyone knows Thunder Down Under. Everyone knows Chippendales now. But even back in the day, it wasn't like a bachelorette, striptease type experience. It wasn't. It was an experience. We were on stage. We had there were 6 of us lead dancers with an ensemble of real dancers, real guy dancers, professional dancers. It was choreographed. We had numbers. We had group numbers, and then we had assigned numbers. And we had in Chippendales, the dancers make their tips. And what I don't know why I'm laughing. I find this funny. And what's called a kiss and tip number. That's what it's called. So we do our number, and then you have a certain amount of time to get out into the audience, and someone follows you with a bag, and you basically, all the women are holding up their money, and you give them a hug and a kiss on the cheek, and you take their money and stuff it in said bag. And there's an allotted time period for that. So the quicker you hustle and run around, then but you danced. This I did not know. Fuck yeah, I danced. This white boy's got rhythm. I'll get into that in a moment. Yeah, so that's how we made our extra money. And I was just going to comment on the kiss and tip. So yeah, that's how we made our money. Outside of, in addition to obviously being paid. So that was the show, and you know, we did it each week in New York, and then we went on tour a little bit. Now, full disclosure, this was not the heyday of Chippendales in the late 80s, 90s. Okay, they had their own club. They were dancing like 4 or 5 nights a week. It was chaos back in the day. A lot of seedy shit, a lot of I think there was like a murder and all that stuff, which I think is exposed on some recent Netflix documentary. Then they closed Chippendales, Natras, and so they closed Chippendales. And then basically about 6 years or so later, the owner, someone bought Chippendales, and it happened to be, now that I think of it, I can't remember his name. It was the guy that founded the Backstreet Boys. True story. He bought Chippendales, decided to reopen it, and there it was. So this was in the late 90s. So subsequently, there's been a Chippendales in Vegas and stuff, but I was involved in the resurgence of Chippendales into the world, and then I'll get into some of that. Anyway, so that's kind of the Chippendale show. Get that question out of the way. Man, this is so good. I got to run and teach my Zumba class. Well, there you go. Shake it. Shake what your mama gave you. We'll have to watch this later. Thanks, Fab. And thanks for buying the book, Fab. I really appreciate it. Yes, the murder. Right. It was a murder and murder subplot in Villagers before my time. However, I'll tie into that, Ben. I'll tie into that in a second, because the next question I got was, well, how did you start? Like, how did you start Chippendales? True story. Wrestling played a big part in that. It was during the Attitude Era of the WWE and WCW. Wrestling was in its heyday in the late 90s. And we were all into it at the bar that I was running or managing. And I don't know, I just was into the pomp and circumstance, you know. And then as an actor, you're only as good as your last job, and you're wanting your next job. And for me, that external validation was everything. So I was like, fuck, I saw an ad in Backstage Magazine looking for a Chippendale show. They were going to reignite this. And I said, all right, here I go. So look at your flipping hair. Shut up, Natras. So I put on my cowboy boots, my jeans. I fucking walked in. And so what had happened, because they were redoing this, it was televised, they were recording it. It was a big publicity stunt. And I walked in there, and we had an audition. So there was an audition, and there was quite a number of guys there, quite a number of, I talk about it in the book. And I mean, I'm not going to give everything away in the chapter. There were some beasts of guys in there that had 2 left feet attached into cinder blocks, trying to move with some rhythm. And here comes little Jim. And I say little because I'm 6 foot. I'm in shape, but some of these guys were just fucking enormous. And of course, you were on the stage at Chippendales, Cindy Van, savage. And these guys couldn't dance. Anyway, my mate Steve, who's on this live, we used to go clubbing all the time. And Steve, Ed, and I, who are all in the book, play a significant role in the book. We could dance. We were those guys that could dance and would just dance. We had fun. So this little guy came out in the audition and he put us through some moves in kind of a cattle call line, and we did our thing, and it was all filmed. And so I got the call, like, I don't know, a couple of days, Stevie, a couple of I stripped at a female. Oh, Benjamin. I got the call a few days later that they wanted me as one of the lead dancers. And there was another made-for-TV movie back in the early 2000s. It might have been on like USA or something. And they used the footage from the audition in the movie. It might have been another documentary. And I remember I was in the footage in this documentary. So my audition is out there somewhere. Anyway, so that's how I got into it. Let's see. Any other questions coming in while I do this? All right. So what were the guys like? What were the guys like? Well, I don't remember all of them. I remember there was one guy, my closest guy that I got along with. His name was Matt. Matt? No. His name was Rob Perez. Rob Perez. He was a bartender. He was the only guy in the group of the six of us that was in the original Chippendales back in the early 90s, back in the chaos days. Puerto Rican guy, super good looking, super good guy, just a great guy. Another guy, Matt. Another guy, Shane, a Hawaiian guy named Shane. And there were a couple others, but those guys were kind of we got along really well. And you know what? They were just a good bunch of guys. Like I didn't know what I was getting myself into, because besides the fact that I was a Chippendale, I'm still kind of like a clean cut version of a Chippendale. So, I'm kind of this blend, and I wasn't sure what the fuck I was getting into. And, we got together, we danced, and everyone went home. It wasn't like we were out partying. There's no glamour stories, unfortunately, maybe a few when we went on tour, but not in New York. Honestly, I was back at my apartment by 11. It's just one of those things, but the time we had was really fun, and good group of guys. Here's a question for you out there. Did you work with the original Chippendales when they started in New York? Yes and no. Question came in. Did I work with the original? Not the original in the late 80s to early 90s. Then they closed down, and then they reopened. And then I was one of the lead dancers in the late 90s. Here's a good question for you. This came into my inbox. What is it like wearing a thong? Well, good question, I suppose. For a guy with dangly bits, wearing a thong can be quite the experience. We all used socks. So I learned it pretty quickly, because I didn't know this, of course, rookie. Yeah, you have a sock, and you have an elastic band, dress sock, and you cover your junk, and then you put your thong on, because you don't want your junk popping out on stage, because we were a class act. Also, though, it was self-preservation, because when you went into the crowd for those kiss and tip numbers, fuck, it was like you're taking your life in your own hands out there sometimes with women. And here's the thing. and my community knows that I'm a huge advocate for women and a huge supporter of women, so I can say this. Women, when they drink and get together in a setting like that, it's just rabid animals. Like unfortunately, they can get away with a lot of stuff that guys in a role reversal guys could not get away with in a strip club. Let's say they'd be, punched in the face by the bouncer and thrown out on their fucking keister. So having your junk in a sock under a thong made a lot of sense. So there you go. And if anyone wants to know, mine was a navy blue. Did I ever go full commando? No, I never went full commando. Here we go. Are there any rules? This is a good question. Were there any rules or protocols to being a Chippendale? Not really. I mean, there's a name. Like, obviously, Chippendales has a name, right? And it's a brand. So, as I said, we held true that it was an experience, and it was a performance. It was art to a degree, and I mean that. I mean, it's choreographed dance, and here's a side story just to tie into that. His name was Greg. I can't remember his last name. The choreographer of our Chippendales was also one of the 3 supporting casts that I said were professional dancers. Greg actually did the choreography for the Metropolitan Opera. And here he was doing choreography for Chippendales. So, pretty legit at the time. I mean, we treated this seriously. It wasn't just a fun thing to do on the side. There was a certain level of behavior that was expected. So I guess there were certain rules. Yeah, that's it. I mean, nothing crazy. Like, we just had to be mindful and be, that we're representing a brand wherever we were. Let's see, coming in. Did you have tearaways? I did. I had a pair of kind of like they were like a soft plastic leather with Velcro all down the side. Yeah, breakaway, tearaways, whatever you want to call them. I had a pair. We all had a pair, actually. So it wasn't like I was special. Did you sign autographs? Yeah, I did. We did Polaroids, things like that, things to make extra cash, of course. I did sign a lot of autographs, though. Specifically, so in New York, we had, on Saturday nights, we'd probably have about 150 women, maybe. A lot of those would be New Yorkers, and then half of them would be from like New Jersey, right? And coming in, and so it was kind of a night out experience for the ladies. So there was always kind of a meet and greet afterwards if they wanted, and yeah, it's probably. Yeah, I mean, I signed quite a few autographs over my tenure as a Chippendale. When we went out of town, that's when the shows got quite big, 250 or so, and we really were treated like a celebrity when we arrived, and how we were treated, and so forth. So yes, I did. Any debauchery? I don't know if I should. Maybe I should have an NDA on that one. Any debauchery, comma, did you ever hit the stage drunk? Did you make any wedding proposals? No. Why? I mean, why would I make any wedding proposals? Good question, though, but no. I don't know if I got any. No, I can't remember. I don't think so. Did we hit the stage drunk? No. Getting back to rules, here's the thing. We had a protocol. See if you answer that question live. That's what I do, Nicole. We're here live. Thank you, IG feed. keeping it real. I appreciate that. Where was I? Oh, okay. Our protocol. Back in the 90s, late 90s, there was I can't even remember. I think it was called like HGH or something back then. But now it's illegal or something. In back then though, you could get it in the fitness stores, and it was like this gel. And apparently, if you took this with alcohol, it kind of puts you on a little plane of existence. And so Rob, who I mentioned, we would always bring in some HGH. I think that's what it was called. Anyway, whatever it was. And we would do like a beer and a couple shots of this stuff. That's it. And so, I never hit the stage hammered. No. No. Definitely some GHB. Yeah. I think that's what it was, Ben. Right? Because it's a muscle building fitness supplement, right? So but it you combine it with alcohol, and so people started using it. The date, right? Okay, yeah. So people started combining it with alcohol, like recreationally, and that's when they started to kind of take it off the shelf and all that shit, right? So, anyway, gives you a good little woo. So the shows were exciting that way. I do a couple of the guys who I won't name, lead dancers. They were into the whole Special K thing. And a couple times, one time in particular, he couldn't even he didn't make the show. He was in the dressing room on the fucking floor in his bow tie and cufflinks, just fucking drooling on himself and useless as tits on a bull. He got a lot of shit for that because, again, we had to kind of revamp the number, right? Everyone's got a strategic place for some of the group numbers, but that was it. None of us were into the drug. Well, he did Special K, but none of us were into any type of blow or anything like that. I heard the stories of the original days from Rob, and it was like you would think it was in the late 80s, early 90s, just chaos, lines, all that shit, but not when I danced. All right. Everyone wants to know what my number was. It's probably the biggest question I get. What was my number, right? Because, again, we all have a kiss and tip number. So what was my number? Well, it's quite serendipitous now with everything I got going on. And again, I don't want to give away too much, but I'll share this because I think it's pretty cool to share. So some guys like Rob, my buddy Rob, he had this steamy bed dance routine. We fucking brought a bed on stage, dim the lights, and he does this kind of fucking dance in the bed with the sheets and all the shit, right? Steamy, whatever, stripping naked. For me, though, my number was Officer and a Gentleman. So I was the guy in the Navy suit, like the famous movie, the white, all white, prim and proper, Mr. Gardner, Navy guy, Top Gun, all that shit. That was me. So my number was a little bit different in that it started with a bunch of us all in our white Navy uniforms doing this choreographed walk, kind of military style walk. And then they would start to peel off, leaving me. So then it was my solo number. And the song, this is where you can't make this shit up, like talk full circle. The song was Hero by Mariah Carey. I never paid two shits to that song, all these years until I created the hero within and started to write my book. And then all of a sudden I'm like, of course my Chippendale song was Hero. I'm like, it's just one of those beautiful full circle moments in life. They're there. So anyway, that was my number, and peeled off my navy whites, and yeah, it ended on stage in my my blue banana hammock with a military salute as the lights went down and the crowd went bananas. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, so that was my number, Officer and a Gentleman. And it was one of the more well-received numbers. I think obviously there's a thing with men in uniform. Obviously the Navy whites is a big thing for a lot of women. So it was well received. What do we got here? We got time for a couple more. Did we have rehearsals? Yes. Well, we had rehearsals. Yeah, like I said, right, we worked with Greg, the choreo. So we rented out a jazz studio, and we rehearsed for quite a bit to dial in all the group numbers. And I have to say, I loved dancing. Yeah, women, that's for sure. It's a romantic thing. Yeah. I love dancing, and I was good at it. I have rhythm. And so I think the artist in me, it's one thing I never really got into was the Broadway musical theater thing. It never really called to me as much as it does now, just in terms of musical theater. I love it. Didn't really call to me back then, even when I was in New York. I would definitely go back and take dancing, and would have loved to sing. I can't sing. I would have loved to sing and dance on stage, though, for sure. But I got to learn a lot of jazz moves and things like that, and joke around with it with my girls when they, I used to do some jazz moves for them. They were like, "What, Dad?" I'm like, "Yeah, dance, Dad. Hey, what can I tell you?" So why did you stop? Good question. Why did we stop? Well, there was a big event that happens in the book that I'm not, or in the chapter that I'm not going to divulge, because I want to save that for our listeners and our readers and listeners. Here's the thing. So Chippendales, we were doing the New York shows for about a year, give or take. We were touring around. The tours were the big thing. And the company, the owners of the company knew that the money was in the tour. And so they wanted us to tour, and they wanted us to relocate to Vegas, have Vegas kind of be the central hub. Now, we were all New York guys. I was from Rhode Island, close enough. A lot of the other dancers were all New York based. And we had, like I said earlier in this conversation, we all had lives. A couple of guys were engaged, and it just wasn't what we wanted. So we met with the owners, and I remember they took each of us, we all had appointment times in this office, and they took us in and asked us to join this touring group in Chippendales and all that. And we all said no. We said thanks, but no thanks. It's just something that we didn't want to do, like extensively. I was trying to be an actor, and other guys had their own things going on. And so what had happened was it basically disbanded and then reemerged with new guys in Vegas. And that's the show that's still there all this time later. I don't know if it's been consistent, but I know someone reached out to me that actually did some work for the Chippendales just a couple of years ago. based out of that, and that all stemmed from that late '90s emergence that I was part of. So we all, it was funny. We all said no, and to be honest, interesting sidebar. We created our own little mini tour. We didn't use the name Chippendales, but we were all Chippendale dancers, and we played a couple of gigs, like out in Queens and Bronx, Long Island, and that was short lived. We were just like, nah, this is it's lived its life. So it ended, and we rode off into the sunset. Any questions coming in? Last one that I'll leave you with, unless there's some other questions, is what did I learn? Because yes, here's the skinny gang. It's a cool fucking story, sure, and my book is filled with these kind of cool little anecdotal Forrest Gump style moments, if you will, and it served a purpose though. Besides besides an event that's in the book from the chapter from a show, which I still have the aftermath of, and we'll leave it at that. Good evening. Good evening. The thing is, Chippendales was a great experience, and it also helped to validate a couple things for me. Validate that I knew there was a disconnect with what I was doing and what little Jimmy inside wanted to do in terms of being on stage. Little Jimmy didn't want to be a fucking Chippendale, right? Little Jimmy wanted to be an actor. And the Jim, the adult, was drawn to that pomp and circumstance, that the applause, the attention, the being held up in high regard by women, and all of that fed the boy in me, the hurt boy that would never get picked at a slow dance in middle school. And that's why if you look on my overlay, the steel chair, you'll see with this book there's a lot of images of steel chair. That's a reoccurring theme throughout the book. And one of the major things that I had come to me in this writing process was I forgot how much my younger self was defined by that steel chair at the middle school dances when no one wanted to dance with me. And I sat there. And one of the original Chippendales talks about that. You'll have to tell me what they're talking about. Okay. And so I was like, this was my fuck the chair moment. It's like, no, I'm going to get back at that, right? I want it. I want the attention. I want women to want me. And so I learned that. I learned external validation is not connected to truth. I mean, I learned that now. Back then, I knew there was a seed. It took a journey for me to realize that. The other big thing too is just being, I felt to a degree, and I'll never put myself in their shoes. I felt to a degree what it's like to be a woman, to be a piece of meat. And it's when all that applause wears off, and you got some lady in Pennsylvania trying to cram her tongue down your throat. True story, and women grope in you, and it's just like, I know this goes both ways, and so it just kind of opened up my eyes to that, and just kind of, it's like, even back in that day, Like I never felt comfortable going to a strip club, going to watch women. It wasn't really my thing, and so even as a male Chippendale, it wasn't my thing. So I think that was a big thing that I learned too, that kind of piece of meat that, it's not all fucking sunshine and rainbows and applause and dollars and ooh and an when you don't feel um, truly seen, you know? All they see up there is a guy fucking stuffed socket is in a thong, shredded up and glistening under the lights, and they don't know, right? They don't know my story. They don't know I grew up with asthma and had a near death experience and struggled with different things. Like they don't know, right? So that's why I know all of us have things that no one knows, and that's why none of us should fucking judge. And so part of being, leading with love and being a conscious male is there is no fucking shame game, right? All this is acceptance. That's why I'm talking about this now, and also why, I'll never fucking judge anyone ever again. No way, right? So. Yeah, well, Christopher, what's up, my brother from Rhode Island, Troop 152, back in the Boy Scout days. Some nuggets in here, Chris. You may want to go back. Some cool shits once we're done here. So that's what I learned. Since we're live here, we still got some time. I don't mind answering any other questions. Any other Chippendale questions for James Gardner? Stuff. I'll let you guys type in if something comes up. Lastly, gang, look, this is all part of my book. This is all part of All In With Love, my journey to the hero within. This is all about reconnecting to the inner child, the work that is needed in this world, the work that I'm called to do, and have all of us walk hand in hand with our younger selves in life, in business, in romance, in play, in whatever. That's the gateway. And these stories and stuff that I've been sharing, I hope there's something that resonates. And I need your support. For those of you that haven't picked up a copy, I need over the next 4 weeks to sell 200 units, 200 books, to work with a major publishing company to get this out to the world. Just to let you know, a heads up here, we are starting week 3 today of a 6-week campaign, and we're fucking killing it, crushing it. So thank you to all of you. That's why truth always fucking lands, guys. This is me, right? Being emotionally available, being heart-led, being conscious, good, bad, and ugly. We all have a fucking story. Peggy, yes, cousin. We all have a story, and let's just remember that. All right. Would appreciate support. Anybody catches this, wants to like it and share it to your community. This is about growing this community. Yeah, I'm trying to sell books, and it's about growing this community because this work that I'm doing with this book is going to be the next 10 years of my life. There's going to be keynotes. There's going to be traveling and touring. There's going to be possibly, I'm already thinking of offshoots for books based on stuff in the book, and shit like that. So mad love to all of you guys. And this was fun. Thanks for tuning in, gang. This is the first time in 20, I gotta do the math. 22, 23, 24 to 23 years that I've talked about Chippendales publicly. Only a couple cats, my bro Steve, a couple of girls that I've been involved with, my ex. Only a couple people know. And so, but like I said, no shame game, right? Be conscious. And mad love to all you. So there it is. I love you guys. I appreciate the support. IG Land, you guys rock too. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the comments. You guys are awesome. All right, Chris, thank you. April, thank you. You guys, April, thank you so much. Double A, Peggy, Steve, Cindy Van, Christine, yes, Benjamin, Nicole, Amanda, Steve-O, Fabi, Cindy Van, the Wellness Hutch. Oh, I thought I said Wellness Coach, the Wellness Hutch. Yes. Thank you. You guys rock. Mad love to you. All in with love. Let's go all in with love. I'm out. Peace.